Hey guys, Joe DeMarco from the Crazy New York Driver Show for Friday, September 18th, 2015. Today we're going to be discussing the new seller performance requirements as outlined in eBay's recent seller newsletter. We have quite a lot to discuss, so I'm going to be devoting almost all the video to this one topic. Should time permit, I will also talk a little bit about the eBay We Are 20 event that I was at last week. But let's get right to business. I'm sure by now all of you have received in your eBay messages the eBay seller newsletter, which details the seller performance requirements. I hope most of you have read it and digested it, and by now you realize this seller newsletter is the best seller newsletter for sellers that eBay has ever put out. It is filled with good news and positive changes. I'm going to go over them with you now, and I'm sure that most of you already are happy, and those of you that are not yet happy should be happy by the time I'm finished explaining all of them. I cannot find anything negative to say. So let's see what we've got to talk about. Defects are a very big hot topic in this newsletter. As you know, the defect system, in just about everybody's opinion, has always been a little bit too tough on sellers, especially top-rated sellers. It basically found too many ways to find faults with any one given transaction. The way it's set up right now, you could get a defect for any of the following things: negative or neutral feedback, low DSR ratings, a case opened, item not received, significantly not as described returns. Any of those things would give you a defect. It was ridiculous. Starting in February 20th, 2016, there are only 2 ways any seller can get a defect. Number 1, a seller canceled transaction for out of stock. That means if you have something listed, a buyer buys it, and then you say to the buyer, I'm canceling the transaction because I no longer have the item in stock. That would be a defect for you. And if you did something like that to your buyer, you deserve a defect. That is inexcusable behavior for any seller. You may remember last month I came out here and I ranted that I purchased an item on Amazon, and 3.5 days later they contacted me and said, oh, we're out of stock, we can't ship it. That was inexcusable and it pissed me off. And I can definitely understand any buyer getting pissed off if he purchases an item and the seller waits 3.5 days and says it's out of stock. That's not right, and it actually hurts the whole community. Okay? So that's one way you can get a defect, and a very deserved defect. And there's only one other way. Cases not resolved by a seller. Now let me explain what this is, because this is deep. Heretofore, if a buyer opened a case against us, we got an automatic defect, whether we resolve the case or not. It is no longer the case. Here's the way it works now. Let's say a buyer opens a case against you right now for an item that he purchased from you. There are several possibilities. Number 1, let's say he wants a refund. He wants to return the item. You can agree to a refund, and if you work it out with the guy, that's fine. No defect for you. Choice 2, let's say the buyer wants to keep the item, but thinks it's not as good as the way you described it and wants a partial refund, and you agree to it. That's fine too. No defect for you. Okay? Let's say the buyer decides something that's a little bit wrong. Let's say he decides he wants to keep the item and he wants his money back, and you feel he is abusing the system. You could escalate it to eBay And if they find in your favor, there'll be no defect. However, if they find for the buyer, there will be a defect, okay? That counts as a case being closed without seller resolution. And that's something eBay is pretty strict on. And they're going to continue to be strict on it. So the point is with these cases, only escalate it to eBay if it's a real open and shut case of a buyer abusing the system. I mean, if somebody wants to return an item, guys, let's face it, returns are a part of doing business. If a person wants to return an item, you really have to take the return, okay? So it's better just to accept the return, work the case out with the buyer, and move on. It's part of doing business. While we're on the subject of returns, one of the new stipulations to be a top-rated seller on eBay is to accept returns for 30 days and not the current 14 days. As of right now, I am a top-rated seller, 100% feedback, and I'm accepting returns for 14 days. However, I am planning to comply, and I'm going to change my return time frame to 30 days because I want to keep the top-rated seller status and the 20% discount. With the new seller performance requirements, which are effective February 20th, 2016, top-rated sellers who used to be able to have 2% transaction defects can now only have 0.5% transaction defects. Now, I know there are some of you saying, oh my God, 0.5%? That's a very small amount. I'm scared to death I'm going to lose my top-rated seller status. Well, guys, before you say that, I want you to answer one question for me. Just one. Given what I've said to you so far, there are only two ways you can get a defect. Number one is for a seller cancel transaction where you canceled it for out of stock. And number two is for cases closed without seller resolution. I would like all of you to stop right now, okay? Go into your My eBay, check your defect report, and tell me if any of you have had a defect for either of those things. And I'm willing to bet most of you have not. So my point is, guys, if you haven't had a defect for either of those criteria, you are safe. The odds are you won't get any defects from them now either. I've never had a defect, ever, for seller cancel transaction out of stock or cases not resolved. So right now, I have a 0.57 defect rate, which is considered good because 2% is allowable. But going under the future standards, I would have a 0% defect rate under the future standards. So I'll be set. And I'm sure most of you guys will be set too. Have any of you ever had a defect for a seller cancel transaction out of stock or cases not resolved? If so, please tell me below. As far as those cases not resolved, eBay is strict on that. They don't want to see any more than 0.30% closed cases without seller resolution. So keep that in mind. I mean, if a person is abusing you, outright abusing you and trying to commit fraud, well then yeah, escalate it to eBay, because I would too. I'm not going to let anybody walk on me. That hasn't changed. As far as other sellers are concerned, non-top rated sellers, there's a little bit more leeway with you guys. You are allowed to have a little bit more. You are allowed to have 2% defects. Alright? Where the rest of us, the top rated sellers, have 0.5%. As I said, to maintain top rated seller status, you have to now accept 30-day returns. And I will comply with that. I don't see that as being a big deal. It's the industry standard. I don't like returns. I don't think anybody likes them, but it's just the cost of doing business. Now, let's talk about shipping. All right? and how you can protect yourself from late shipping. All right? This is very important. eBay has always been big on tracking, okay? They want your items to be shipped within your stated handling time. And it's not hard to do, guys. My stated handling time is 1 day. For instance, if you buy something from me on Monday, I have to ship it out by Tuesday. And all you have to do, guys, is one thing. When you take your packages to the post office, have them scanned in immediately. Now listen, this is important. This is eBay talking. I'm just relaying this. If you take your packages to the post office within your stated handling time, let's say it's 1 day. So let's say someone bought something on Monday, today's Tuesday, you're at the post office. If they scan in the acceptance scan at the post office, you are covered, period. No matter what happens. Maybe the shipment gets delayed out west, maybe there's a storm or something, doesn't matter, you're covered. Because when the buyer gets the item, there's a new question you may have noticed that eBay's asking. Did your item arrive on or before the stated handling time of, and whatever the date is? And the buyer checks yes or no. Now if the buyer checks yes, that's fine. If the buyer checks no, eBay will then check. And if you have scanned your package when you dropped it off at the United States Post Office facility, if it was scanned in with an acceptance scan, you're covered. You are covered. But if there is no acceptance scan, eBay will then look and see if it was scanned somewhere else in its journey. And as long as it was, and it's within your stated handling time, it's still covered. But if there is no scan at all and no tracking uploaded, well then you're not covered and you're going to have yourself a problem. So I implore you guys, I implore you to use eBay labels. The tracking number will be automatically uploaded, and when you go to your post office, please have them scan it in. I have heard stories, for some reason I notice it with a lot of the Floridians, saying that the post office does not want to scan it when you get to the post office. Well, that's wrong. They're supposed to do it. That's their job, okay? That's their job. I have never, ever had a problem in my life having a postal employee scan my package, okay? Very important, so please do that. eBay is introducing a new seller hub this fall. It is not yet out. There's a beta version that they're introducing now, and they're inviting certain sellers to partake of it, or you can even contact them and ask to be put on the waiting list. It's supposed to It's supposed to streamline all your activity in one central hub. They're really upselling this thing, and I'm really anxious, and I'm really looking forward to see what it's going to be. They say it's going to be a lot easier, and I think it is. Also, eBay is streamlining returns for those of you guys who accept returns. Now, if you're an eBay seller and you do not accept returns, you still don't have to. Nobody says you have to accept returns on eBay. However, if you want to be a top-rated seller and get that 20% off discount, you have to accept returns for 30 days. So it's all up to you guys what you want to do. But yes, I just thought that would be something of interest that you guys should know about. I have been very busy in the Facebook groups, and we've been talking about this new seller newsletter. And I have not found a single person who does not like the changes. This is the first seller newsletter I can remember that is really geared to helping us sellers. It's seller friendly. eBay is looking out for us. Now, I know some of you guys are probably saying, well, Joe, I agree that I do like some of the changes in the seller newsletter, but aren't you going a bit overboard with your cheering for eBay? Well, no. Because, guys, remember, last week I was at the eBay We Are 20 event. So I'm privy to certain things that maybe you guys aren't if you didn't go to the event. I got to talk to the people. I got to talk to some big names in eBay, all right? Some important people, all right? One of the people I spoke to in person was Jordan Sweetum, the Vice President of Seller Experience. In fact, many of you guys have seen this picture. Take a look. That's us. We were on our way to breakfast, and we banged into Jordan by accident, and we had an ambush interview, if I may call it that. And we talked to him, and many of his associates are really looking to help the seller. All right? Trust me on this. We had a very productive week in San Jose. We had a very good time. I learned a lot. I got to meet a lot of you guys. I loved how people at the event would look at me like this, like, I know you. You're the guy that makes the videos. So many people came up to me, and it was so great to meet some of you guys. Very thankful to all those that came up to me and greeted me and said that you found my videos helpful. Thank you for that. I will continue to make them every Friday. I will never stop. One of the things I did do while I was in San Jose, which I told you, I'm going to show you this. There was a specific room where eBay employees were hanging out in. And I mean, there was a lot of bottom level employees, but there was a lot of head honchos. I'm not freaking kidding. I was very surprised. And what I did, the same thing I did when I went to eBay in Philly a few years ago, I printed out a 4-page document. This bad boy right here. And what this is a list of ideas that I've had to help make selling on eBay better. And it also has some of your ideas in it too. And it had some other things as well. So I went to the head honchos and I gave each one a hard copy. I got their business cards with their email, and I also emailed them the file so I can keep in touch with them. And every one of the guys was happy, thankful, and receptive. And they actually read it in front of me, you know, and they were happy. One guy actually was so excited about one change, he seemed so interested in it, that he got out a pen and paper and started making notations of how it would work on the site. He was doing a little diagram right on the sheet. So I am very, very, very happy. I think everything's positive. I have no bad things to say. The event went off like clockwork. One thing I did not expect was every seller that attended received a $100 gift card from eBay. That's right, boys. $100 gift card from eBay. We all got one. So thank you, eBay, for the $100. That'll be spent very shortly. At the event, there was a lot of revelry, and there were at least three artists working, doing caricatures. You can get online and have your picture drawn by an artist. I'm sure you know caricatures are usually insulting looking drawings, and the guy did my drawing. I don't think it really looks like me, but I want to show it to you in case you didn't see my video from the other day. Take a look at this. What do you think of this bad boy here, huh? I don't think it really looks like me, but I think it's pretty cool looking. And a few of my friends got theirs done too. So yeah, if you watch my video from a couple of days ago, the live video that I shot while I was at the event, you'll notice that there was the clapping tunnel where we would walk through the corridor, and it was lined with eBay employees clapping for us. Apparently that's something they did back in the old days, and I wasn't aware of that, but I thought it was a really cool thing that they did. The eBay employees clapping for us and thanking us for being long-time sellers on the site. Excellent, excellent. I had just a super good time, guys. So again, to get back to the seller newsletter and the performance requirements, you really need to read this. It's in your eBay messages. Okay, everyone got one. It's there. Go check it out. The defect requirements have eased off considerably, so I know a lot of you guys will breathe a sigh of relief. The returns, if you want to be a top-rated seller, you've got to take returns for 30 days. There's no way around it. Guys, if someone's going to return something, they're going to return something. Now keep in mind, even like with me, I was accepting returns for 14 days. But by eBay rules, they would let a person open a case as long as 30 days. So either way, there was going to be a return for 30 days, so I'll just accept them for 30 days and be done with it and not complain. Returns are going to be streamlined in the near future. They no longer call it hassle-free returns. It's now just called returns. Always, please, guys, always get your items scanned at the post office when you drop them off. It's very important. You've got to do that, okay? You're protecting yourself, all right? If anyone at the post office gives you any lip, you say to them, Crazy New York driver said I should get it scanned, okay? They're working for you. As far as cases, remember, if someone opens a case against you starting February 20th, don't get all bent out of shape. That it's no longer an automatic defect. Usually you can work it out with the person. I had a couple of snag cases opened against me earlier in the year, and both times I worked it out. However, both times I was stung with a defect, which was wrong. eBay should never have done that to its sellers. And you know I said that from the beginning. And they've listened to us, and they've come around, and they've agreed with us. So these videos and us as a community, as a selling community, we have to stick together. We have to compare notes. eBay is working with us, and I think it's great. And I'm going to give a big round of applause for eBay Incorporated for putting on such a great show. eBay We Are 20 for listening to us and for easing up the seller requirements. I'm Crazy New York Driver, and you're not. Thanks for watching. I'm back to my regular Friday schedule now. If you have any questions or comments, comment below. I doubt there's anything you saw in the seller newsletter that you didn't like, but if you did, comment, and maybe you misread it or misunderstood it. I think everything's for the better. I think it's all positive, and you should think that too. Okay? See ya.